Today, the U.S. began operations against Iraq from the Encirclet base in Turkey. This will allow U.S. fighters to pursue Iraqi planes that try to flee. In addition, U.S. bombers will be able to attack targets in Iraq without refueling. Sources here say the battle against Iraqi air defenses has gone so well that Allied aircraft today stepped up their attacks against Iraqi ground forces, particularly the elite Republican Guards. And for the first time in the war, Apache helicopters and A-10 Warthogs began hitting Iraqi armor. Only after Iraqi ground forces have been thinned out by airstrikes will the U.S. be ready to launch its ground campaign. Another sign that the ground war may be drawing closer was the movement of about 12,000 marine amphibious forces into the Persian Gulf. From positions about 75 miles off the coast of Kuwait, they're expected to launch helicopter and other quick strikes against Iraqi forces in Kuwait and southern Iraq. Bob Zelnick, ABC News at the Pentagon.
Guy Waters has looked defeat squarely in the eye and come to terms with it.
Well, the decision was pretty much right. My performance wasn't up to scratch. I could have performed a bit better, but just the way it goes. I think maybe I'll let nerves get hold of me a little bit. Maybe next time.
And it now seems certain he'll be given another shot at the World Crown. The man many thought didn't have what it takes spent 12 gruelling rounds showing all who watched he could mix it with the best. The judges awarded Dennis Andres a close but unanimous points decision and paved the way for a third clash between the champ and Australia's Jeff Harding. Waters should get a crack at the winner.
He's got Harding and Andres booked again to fight, and if Harding wins it, it'll be Harding and me, so that'd be great.
And he's not the only one who fancies his chances against Harding, the former world champion.
I think he'll give Jeff Harding some problems. If he train like that again, he'll give Jeff Harding a good fight.
Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
Once again, the US Patriot anti-missile missiles intercepted the incoming fire. However, parts of the missiles fell on the city of Riyadh. 12 people have been reported injured by shrapnel. Air raid sirens also sounded in Dhahran, but the all clear soon followed. Condemnation continues to mount against Iraq after it announced it would use POWs as human shields to protect sensitive installations. Parading the Allied airmen on TV, Iraq is contravening the Geneva Convention. US President Bush says the Allied bombing raids will continue. In Australia, Iraq's senior diplomat here has told officials in Canberra that Australia will not be a target for Muslim terrorist attacks because its involvement in the Gulf War is considered minimal.
First came the dangers of demolishing and disposing of asbestos roofing brought down by the quake. Now another threat lurks in the paintwork of many old houses and buildings. Lead-based paints were common and popular up until the 1960s. They held their colours and were long-lasting. Often painted or panelled over since, they retain inherent dangers when exposed by renovators. Inhaled or swallowed, paint dust and flakes can cause stomach pains, vomiting and insomnia. But small children playing in the dirt and dust around work areas face worse risks.
At that age, their nervous system is still developing, and we know from a lot of research that's been done, particularly in recent times, that the levels of lead in the system, which can interfere with that, are probably slightly lower, if anything, than the level we thought was safe.
Most modern household paints and primers are lead-free. Some sign writing, industrial and automotive paints contain lead, but are packaged with warnings. The Health Department lists precautions. When using a blowtorch or electric stripper to remove old paint, a properly filtered respirator should be used. If sanding or using a hot air blower, use a dust mask. Clean up after the job. wash thoroughly before eating, and launder work clothes separately. Most importantly, keep small children away from the work area. Andrew Lobb reporting for NBN News.
The Swedes have raced the Aussies in 4 tests and the scores are even. Fine-tuning their machines today, the 7-man team was preparing for the decider. The Swedes have 3 former world title holders, including 1990s champ Per Johnson. 24-year-old Johnson just ousted local star Todd Wilshere for the top spot. Now he's looking for more glory with a series win against Australia.
I mean, all of us are good friends and off the track, but I mean, obviously when you're out there on the track, it's one man on his own, and everyone wants to win, so it's very important for us.
Todd Wilshere and Cessnock rider Chris Watson head a strong Australian field. It will be 18 3-lap heats to decide the winner.
The corroboree is scattered over a 15-hectare site. The camp's theme is international understanding, and scouts today were busy raising flags and pegging in the borderlines of Asia, Africa, Europe and America.
The Scouts Association has always said, friendship no matter what country, class or creed they ever may belong, and to this aim we try to make everyone understand each other's beliefs and understandings.
Such understanding is in contrast to the wider world currently bogged down in international conflict. Activities are organised around having fun, but even here, some games can look like paramilitary training. On the challenge trail, children are put through their paces, over hurdles, into the water, and through the hoops.
What are you doing there?
I'm stuck.
You're not.
Is this fun?
Oh, yeah, sometimes. I just can't get through.
They run a gauntlet of obstacles and face a barrage of flower bombs, and worse. You've just been through a survival course. How do you feel?
I don't know. Pretty bad.
If this is how the camp starts, how do you think it'll finish?
Much more fun.
The proprietor of the service station first noticed the device at about 4 a.m, but thought it was part of equipment being used to install a new LP gas tank. When the tank installers arrived at about 9 o'clock, they called police, and scientific officers decided it looked enough like a bomb to order evacuation of everyone within a half-kilometre radius of the service station. Police say the device appears to be made up of several cylinders which could be explosive, connected to batteries and an aerial. The area will remain cordoned off until specialist bomb squad officers arrive from Sydney.
Our strategy to go after this army is very, very simple. First, we're going to cut it off, and then we're going to kill it.
Always itching for a fight on the fairways, Mr Hawke was out at first light battling 2 Australian Navy sailors. The pair proposed the contest last year while carrying out trade blockade duties on board HMAS Darwin. Whether it was sheer skill or diplomacy on the part of the sailors, the Prime Minister won by 1 stroke.
One of the recipients is Chad Edser, a rising star in the sport of surfing. Just turned 17, his accomplishments are the stuff most other surfers his age dream about. Top cadet 3 years running with his local club Merriweather, winner of a Snow McAllister Memorial Award and numerous school, state and individual titles, he's currently in South Australia competing in the National Individuals Contest. The difficulties of keeping up with the circuit, especially with travelling expenses, are typical of those faced by other young athletes. In water polo, Karen Van Husted of New Lambton has won a grant, along with 15-year-old Olympic freestyle wrestler Yawia Cordoba of Waratah. Wrestling is a relatively obscure sport in the area, and travelling to competition fixtures is all important. Each of the athletes receives $350.
This stretch of highway near Glennish Creek, 8 kilometres north of Singleton, has claimed truck after truck, usually when the road surface is made greasy by rain. In last night's crash, a Mitsubishi Pantech wagon was heading south just after midnight when the driver lost control. The rig went off the road and slid 80 metres down the embankment, somersaulting before coming to rest. The truck was carrying a load of linen for Singleton Hospital. Instead of delivering the supply, the driver was taken there himself, suffering only minor injuries.
Newcastle has 2 catamaran Stockton ferries, a bicentennial gift from the federal government. The purpose-built craft can seat up to 150 passengers, but the twin engines are thirsty, making the ferries expensive to run. The state government wants one of those ferries for the Darling Harbour run in Sydney. Its low profile means it can slip under the Pyrmont footbridge. State Transit has purchased the smaller Marinda 2 from Pittwater to replace Newcastle's second cat. That prompted an outcry from Stockton residents who want the existing service maintained.
These were built for Newcastle, they should stay.
I think it's absolutely a disgrace.
Do you think it's Stockton being treated as second best?
Second best again, yeah, like always.
After initially supporting the government's move, George Keegan has done an about-face. He inspected the Marinda 2 this week and agrees with the Deckhands and Mariners Union that it's unsuitable and unsafe.
It's totally unsatisfactory. There's no way in the world I can support it, having had a look at their vessel. I just think the government's or the department's wasted $300,000 purchasing this vessel when it's totally unsuitable.
With Stockton now in the seat of Newcastle and a state election expected sometime this year, Mr Keegan's backflip on this issue is being viewed cynically by local residents.
Oh, I think the electors will judge Mr Keegan's political motives in the final analysis. If he hasn't taken cognisance of the fact that Stockton's going to be in his electorate, well, then he's not a politician bootlace. I think Mr Keegan's position would be this: with friends like Mr Greiner, he doesn't need enemies.
At peak times, the catamaran carries up to 200 passengers, some standing. If it broke down, the Marinda 2, with just 105 seats, would not cope with the load. Also, only half of those seats are covered, and access to the upstairs area is by a narrow ladder, further limiting the number of seats available to the elderly. In many ways, the Marinda is a reminder of what Newcastle had more than 10 years ago, when these small wooden ferries plied the Stockton route. Residents say it's a step backwards and have vowed to fight on.
Oh, we've been denigrated, there's no doubt about that. They're treating us as second-rate citizens. Well, they're trying to, but they're not going to get away with it.
Two Saudi F-15s were deployed to engage a pair of Iraqi Mirages heading south over the Gulf.
One of the two Saudi pilots engaged and shot down both of the Iraqi planes.
While the Saudis were boasting the first double hit in the air campaign, the presence of enemy jets over the Gulf was a signal of a more aggressive Iraqi posture. It's in line with warnings that after having conserved its air force in the first week of the war, Iraq would switch to the offensive, possibly targeting Allied warships. The Allies have found a new kind of target, Iraqi tankers. One was bombed on suspicion of being a spy ship.
The attack was conducted with weapons designed to negate the ship's command and control capability without rupturing the hull.
Despite that, there are reports of a large oil slick in the Gulf. At the same time, Iraq released pictures of the ruins of what it claims was an infant milk formula factory. The US says it was a chemical weapons plant.
What's pink, white and blue weighs around 80 kilograms and is chock full of nuts and fruit. The Newcastle Lions Club and Lambton Meals on Wheels Australia Day birthday cake, of course. In recent years, the monster cake has become synonymous with Newcastle's Australia Day celebrations, its mouth-watering appearance always resulting in huge queues along the harbour foreshore for a finger-licking good treat, and to aid such organisations as Meals on Wheels and the Rescue Helicopter Service. And it was business as usual today in the Lambton Meals on Wheels kitchen as the team of tried and true birthday cake cooks set about the task of baking and icing their delicious creation. Like other years, the cake is in the shape of Australia, the pink somewhat more taste-tempting than red, white and blue colour themes synonymous with our country, and a little something extra, 3 lines through the top half representing sail masts in recognition of the harbour regatta and our sailors in the Gulf. The big one will be cut into about 1,600 slices, with proceeds going to Newcastle and District Meals on Wheels. Well, just when you thought the property game was all too hard, here's a unique opportunity to buy your own little piece of Australia for just $1, or what in my opinion would have to be the deal of the week, Tasmania, for just $15.
It was Pro-Am time on the Belmont course today, a chance for the highly fancied competitors to relax and fine-tune their games, and an opportunity for those on the fringes of the record 204-strong field to gauge their chances. Defending champion Ricky Willison was feeling the heat, but glad to be back.
It's one of the best courses I've played. It's very similar in a way to British courses, this side of it being links and that, and I've always enjoyed my golf at links courses, and it's great to come back. I mean, people have been fantastic.
His main opposition could well come from 19-year-old Philip Tatarangi. The Kiwi won the juniors last year and only Willison denied him the double.
Well, I played well last year, but I mean, this year's a totally different story. The course is a little bit different and there's a couple of other guys playing, but I'll be just going out to try and play my best and see what the result is Monday afternoon.
The main event begins tomorrow with a cut-off after 36 holes on Sunday and a double round to decide the title on Monday.
Dr. Richards is a world-renowned expert in the study of metals. He worked for Lysarts for 29 years before retiring in 1986. Dr. Richards says although he's greatly honoured, it wasn't all his work.
It's also an award, I think, for all the people that worked with me in the research field. Without their creative ability, I think none of us could have done as much as we've done.
Also to receive the Member of the Order of Australia, Sister Dorothy Campion of East Maitland, for services to education. Miss Roberta Carter-Brown received an OAM for her services to nursing, Mark Moncrief from Dora Creek for work with poultry. In the OAM Military Division, Warrant Officer Norman de Grusser of Singleton, Sergeant Robert Hicks of Cooks Hill and Sergeant Mark Monkley. Chief Inspector Brian Blanch from Gosford Police received an order in the General Division, as did prosthetics expert Mr Colin Allwood from Wallsend. But perhaps the most popular award winner was 81-year-old chemist Colin Glass. Mr Glass has run his Mayfield pharmacy 7 days a week for 50 years without a holiday.
We try to help people. We have the opportunity every day to help people. We do that to the best of our ability. I suppose, over the years you wouldn't have a bit of a flock.
Australia Day began early in the Hunter with an ecumenical service at the Christchurch Cathedral. Community and religious leaders gathered for what has become the traditional start to celebrations in Newcastle. Prayers of thanks for the Australian way of life had a special poignancy this year, with events in the Gulf highlighting that compared to the war-torn nations of the Middle East, Australia really is the lucky country. At Newcastle City Hall, the Australian flag was raised and the large crowd joined with the Waratah Girls Choir and the Royal Australian Navy Support Band to sing the national anthem. Spears Point saw the largest Australia Day celebration ever in Lake Macquarie. 75 people became Australian citizens in a naturalisation ceremony and were greeted by Bobby Lim, Lake Macquarie's Australia Day ambassador. It was a full day of entertainment with stalls, displays and award ceremonies attracting large crowds. Lake Macquarie Council presented Warrant Officer Ray Ashworth with a special Australia Day medallion in recognition of his work in the hours following the earthquake. But by far the biggest draw card was a spectacular RAAF flypast.
Hospital staff weren't about to let their last delivery go home in anything but style, so they hired a luxury limo to see off their last arrival. Baby Brendan John Maxwell is a first child for Cole and Trish Maxwell of Mayfield. They were impressed with the stylish transport, but had no intention of letting little Brendan get any ideas. Do you think you'll expect to be taken around like this in future?
No, no way.
Not that rich. The farewell marks the end of an era at Western Suburbs Hospital which had a tradition of obstetric care dating back to 1897. During that time, staff have delivered more than 100,000 babies. The hospital will now take on a new role as a geriatric care centre.
We'll be left with about 80 staff within this unit. The rest of the staff have got appointments at John Hunter Hospital. Some have gone to the logistics support group, but they've all been given employment within the Area Health Service.
But nurses at Western Suburbs, like Sister Barbara McNamara, retiring after 25 years, doubt whether John Hunter Hospital will be quite the same.
No, I don't think so, because this has been a smaller hospital and it's more personal and more intimate. So I think they'll lose a lot of that over there.
And late this afternoon, the John Hunter Teaching Hospital's new obstetric ward took delivery of its first baby. Cameron Michael Crabb was born at 4:27 to Jenny and Michael of Warners Bay. As a special reminder of the occasion, young Cameron's parents were given a $500 account with Newcastle Permanent. The first baby girl to be born in the new wards will receive $500 worth of goods from Wyeth's Pharmacy. And it's thought that that event could be just hours away.